Hey everyone, welcome back. So, update. The container that I used for the brackets to do the old school vinegar stuff, well, it had started to expand and couldn't really, you know, keep them in that, so I put them in a larger container. And then I transferred them over into a metal pan, and unfortunately, my family decided that they were going to take it upon themselves and completely dump all of it out and just leave it sitting outside because what could possibly go wrong with that? So here's one side of it. It looks great. Looks completely cleaned, and I'm cleaning it with some nail polish remover to get any residues off of it. And unfortunately, this is the opposite side. Completely rusted looking, as far as I can tell. But I'm going to try and. Alright, good. It's coming off. Thank goodness. Alright, so. Tell you what, let me get these fully cleaned off, and then we're going to paint these things. And yeah, so. Yeah. Okay, everyone, I'm back. So, got them cleaned off as best as I could. Had to go get a steel wire brush. Don't use a brass one, won't do much. The steel wire brushes are for getting rust off metal and discoloration, all that kind of good stuff. You can get a set of 3 of these things for like just a couple of bucks over at Harbor Freight. So, yeah, they're good to have. Yeah, it comes with a nylon brush, a brass brush, and a steel brush. So, steel brushes for this. Now, um, I don't have any wire hangers, or if I do, I don't remember where they are. So, found a plastic one and just snap the bottom in half. So here's what we're going to do. So first, let me apologize for the light back here. I'm having to do this in my basement because I don't want to paint these things outside, just in case there's any particulate in the air and it contaminates the paint. Don't want that. So what we're going to do is, and hopefully this will work. All right, so slide one in right there and slide the other on the opposite side, and then I'm going to hang them right there, and it works. All right, so now I've painted stuff before. That ain't nothing new. I'm sure a lot of y'all have too. So yeah, but I'm going to explain this because Dell explained it like this when I was watching this video of when he was starting to paint stuff and explaining the best technique for doing rattle can work. He always says do a mist coat across the whole thing. It's called a tack coat. It gets, a little bit of paint particulate on the surface, and it's not like a full coverage coat. This is just like a misting coat, a tack coat, and that's just so there's a little bit of paint that when you go for a full spread coat, it will adhere to something that's already there. So basically, do a tack coat, wait a few minutes, so that way it's still the paint's still tacky, and then do just a full coverage coat, and then wait however 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, according to what it says on the can. Go by the instructions on the can, and then just keep doing layers until you're satisfied with it. Me, with this, I'm going to do probably about 2 or 3 layers. I might go 4 at the most. Not sure, but I'm probably going to wind up doing Clearcoat over it. So I'm probably going to do 2 or 3 coats of this, which is Honda, oddly enough, Honda metallic black paint. And so I'm going to do 2 or 3 coats of this, and then I'll do 2 or 3 coats of clear. And I'm going to do the tack coat on this so y'all can kind of see what I'm doing, but I can't really move a whole lot of stuff, and so yeah. All right, so here we go. And that's one other thing. When you're first using it, give it a few spritz, spritz shots, so that way you can actually see paint come out. Once you know paint is out, then you can start spraying, because short of that, like if it's a brand new can, it's not going to spit paint immediately. It's going to be whatever is like down in the nozzle, and then you have to clear that out before the paint actually starts firing out. So just FYI. I went a little overboard with it. Oops. So, yeah. Alright, so let me give that time to set up and whatnot, or, to dry off partially, and then we'll come back and I'll do some more coats. I'll do them off camera, but once they're finished, then I'll show you what they look like. So that way y'all can see it. Small thing that I forgot to mention. When you're using spray paint, if you don't know this, then when you're done painting in between rounds, or if you're just done painting with your spray can period, flip it upside down and give it like a couple little like quick hits, sprit hits with it, upside down, so that way it'll actually clear paint out of the nozzle. That will keep it from getting clogged, and you have bought like a $5 or $6 can of spray paint and then wind up having to chuck it even though it's still practically full. So yeah, it's just a little thing to help you get more use out of it, because otherwise it's completely wasted, and that's not what we do. We want to get as much use out of what we buy as possible. So if you don't know that little trick, so there you go. Remember, just flip it upside down, go tss, 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 and look at the spray that comes out. When it goes clear, like when it stops being colored and it just goes clear, that's when you know it's been cleared out. Then you can just put a top on it, or wipe the head of it, wipe the paint off the head of it, and then put the top on it, put it away. So there you go. So I did the first run, and here I'll show you what they look like right now, so that way you get an idea. So here you go. Okay, y'all, so this is pretty much right after the first coat. Now I know that, let's see, where is it? All right, that all those little dust flecks, what they look like, that's not what they are. That's just the metal itself, I believe. Now I know this ain't the cleanest of environments, but it's definitely better than being outside, and I'm making do with what I got to work with. So yeah. Now, if I had a paint booth, it'd be completely different. So, but it is what it is. But so far they look okay. So do another coat, another coat or two, then do a coat or two of Clearcoat, and they should be just fine. Okay, update. Finally got the last two things from that supply company that I deal with. So the boot for the CDI, so now I can get that installed now, and the battery tie down strap. Now, because these things are from a company out in California, because of the COVID-19 thing, of course shipping is a pain in the ass, so gotta kind of be patient with it. I knew that going in. I knew I was gonna have to deal with it. Now, oddly enough, there is a motorcycle salvage yard that is like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from me. I didn't feel like driving all that way, but it is what it is. I was willing to wait the 2 or 3 weeks. It's fine. It's not that big a deal. And besides, these parts are not that expensive. That tie down strap and this is like less than $15 maybe. But I ordered them with all the wheel bearings and whatnot, so the shipping was free. But when I installed this, I'll do this as just a little mini video by itself, because there's not really a whole lot to do with it. But yeah, so let's deal with that. Okay, everyone, so day 2, and I'm back with some Clearcoat, or actually, here, that way you can see what I'm using. So this is gloss clear engine enamel with ceramics in it. So this stuff is meant to withstand heat up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's resistant to oil and fluids, which is precisely the kind of thing that you want to use if you're clear coating brackets or any other kind of custom parts that are going near an engine that has oil in it, or that's below a gas tank that is full of gas. So yeah, now these are the brackets. They actually look really good after, was it 3 coats of black paint. Now when I came back down here after they had already dried, where I'd hang them through the holes, I took them off and rotated them over to the opposite top hole, because remember, on the motor mount there's 2 at the top, 1 at the bottom. And so if you look at it from this perspective, if I hung it on this hole, I switched it over to this hole. The reason being is because where it is hanging, paint couldn't get to that hole, at least not completely. So you switch it over and you do 1 good hit of black again to cover up that last little bit that did not get hit, because otherwise you start clearing this thing the way it was, then you're going to clear the whole thing, and then once it dries and you take it off, you're going to have a section in that hole that does not have paint on it, that does not have clear coat on it, that's going to be open to the elements, and rust. It's going to happen. Don't care what anyone says, it will happen, because steel just rusts, period. Guarantee you, take a normal piece of steel, doesn't matter what it is, just take a piece of plate steel or a piece of sheet steel, fling water on it, set it outside, anything like that, come back a couple days later, guarantee you there will probably be rust on that thing. Or if there's not like just full blown rust, then there will be the starting, stages of rust. And once it starts rusting, it doesn't stop, not unless you scrub it clean or put it through, a media blaster, like a sand blaster, and just blast it all off or grind it all off. Either way. So, yeah. I know that's kind of a long-winded explanation, but when you're doing stuff like this, you've got to think in the physical, but with physics, but also using your head, going, all right, well, yeah, and da 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 da. So switched it over to the opposite hole and sprayed it, so now there's black all over every bit of it. So now I'm going to clear coat it, and once I clear coat it, I'm going to do 2 coats of clear, and then once those are dry, I'm going to switch them over to the opposite hole and then do another quick hit, so that way it's completely covered. Or I'll do like another just full blown hit and it'll be completely covered. So either way. Alright, so remember, make sure that you got it coming out right. Alright, there. That's enough. It'll obviously start clearing now. Alright. Okay, so what you saw me do and shaking my head with. All right, here, let me show you if you can see it. Here, hold on. There you go. All right, so when you have spray heads that are like that, this stuff comes out full force like a spray gun in a paint booth. Okay, on the cans it says hold like 6 to 10 or 12 inches away from the piece. Follow that. Go on the higher end of that spectrum because it's got a wide spray pattern here, and I'll try and show you if you don't know what I'm talking about. See? And that's just me giving a 1 second hit. Not even a 1 second hit. Now, with what I'm doing now, I oversprayed slightly, just slightly, enough to warrant me having to do that because it's hanging. Liquid will settle to its lowest point, and the lowest point is up here on the brackets, and so it'll create like a little drip, and I don't want runs, I don't want sags, but it happens. So I was just, barely touching the liquid just enough to where it would come off onto my hand, and yeah. So gotta wait for that to dry, then I'll do another hit. And remember what I was saying, about clearing it. All right, you hear that? That's when you know it's cleared out. So we're good. So yeah, let it dry for a little bit. We'll come back. I'll come back and hit it again. Then come back tomorrow. Switch over the holes. Spray it one last time, and then let it cure. So curing, like if you're in a paint booth, what curing is you set them in, keep them inside the paint booth, and then you can turn up the heat in there. You're required to do that because it hardens up the paint faster than if you just let it air dry. Because automotive paint, like wet automotive paint that you have to mix and put in a gun, is a whole lot different than using rattle can. With a rattle can, I still prefer to cure it. Now, if you want to, you can do it like the way I'm fixing to tell you. You can get like a wire hanger and put it in an oven, like your normal oven in your house. Okay, you can even use a toaster oven, if you have one. Just as long as there's not like an open flame, because an open flame could spell trouble. As long as it'll just radiate heat, it will cure this and harden it a lot faster. Some people do it, some people don't. I generally don't, and the main reason why I don't have to is because the upstairs part of my house, if there's no fan running, it gets hot up there. So I kind of have an oven, just by happenstance. So once I do my second coat of clear on this, I'm just going to take the hanger off the pipe. I'm going to take it upstairs and just let it hang overnight. So by then it'll be completely dry and it'll probably be cured a little bit. And then once it does that, after I get home from work tomorrow, I'll bring them back down here, do one last hit, and then take them back upstairs, let them cure, and then they'll be done, and I'll get them installed on the bike, and then I can cross that thing off the list as done. And probably while I'm doing that, since I'm going to be under there anyway, I will put the CDI boot onto the bike, because like I said, I got it in the mail finally, so might as well take care of two birds in one stone. Since I'm going to be under there anyway, check that off the list too. And then after that, I can start working on the rear fender and update. So my wife, being very kind and gracious and loving, even though I'm quite certain that I don't deserve it near most of the time, she has actually gotten me a motorcycle lift. Not a long bed lift, but kind of like a scissor jack lift. And that will come in quite handy, because when it gets here, I'll be able to use that to jack up the bike and get the rear wheel off, so that way I can do the rear wheel bearings. Now doing the front bearings, I can use it as well to do, to get the whole front end broken down, because remember, I got to do the headstock bearings, the fork neck bearings and races. I got to do the fork oil. I got to do the fork seals. I got to do the front wheel bearings, and I got to rebuild the front master cylinder and the front brake caliper. So that thing will let me do the entire front end. So yeah, and like I said, I don't really deserve her love, understanding, or graciousness a lot of the time, but I'm very happy that I have her in my life, because along with that, I'd actually planned on cleaning out the basement here before too long, and she went ahead and took it upon herself to do a lot of it. Even though her back is hurting and she's in a lot of pain, because like I said, she's fixing to have to go through surgery, but she cowgirled up and just decided to get it done. And so now that she's cleaned out a lot of it, I'm gonna do a lot of the rest of it, of just picking through stuff and organizing stuff and whatnot. All right, I'm rambling. Sorry. So when we come back, do the final, the final thrill on these things, and we'll get them put on the bike along with the CDI boot. I'll see you then.